Hello, I'm Martin and welcome to my shop. I hope this video today will help you get the very best out of Natura Onecoat, which has become my go-to finish for all interior pieces. Not only do I use it on furniture pieces, but I think it's the unsung hero of timber floors. If you're like me and you don't like plastic film finishes on the floors, then really Natura Hard Wax Oil is a great solution for you. It is very easy to apply. I'm going to show you some steps to go through, plus a few options that I take. Feel free to take the options, some of them or none of them. For timber floors, you would sand to about 80 to 100 grit. For furniture pieces, however, you can go substantially finer. You can go to 220, or if you can't get 220, 240 grit is fine. Now you come to the first option, which is the very old-fashioned water pot method, whereby you spray lightly over the surface a mist of just natural tap water. This will have the effect of raising any grain, and almost immediately afterwards you then lightly sand over again to remove that raising. Then I thoroughly vacuum to get rid of as much dust as possible. Today I'm going to be using two different tints and also be showing you the results of at least two others. Of course, every timber reacts slightly different to a colour, and indeed every camera reflects slightly different that colour. So you have to be aware that what I will get next time, even on the same piece of walnut, may not be exactly the same tint as I've had last time. The first one I'm going to use is clear, that is with no tint added. Start by shaking the cans very well. I hope you'll see just how tough these cans are, designed particularly to help prevent any denting. Part A is the core element, and however how much you mix, you'll use 3 parts of that to 1 part of the hardener. Now you can use any one of several methods to measure up. You can buy these disposable syringes in various sizes. They're particularly good, I find, for smaller quantities. For slightly larger quantities, you can buy these disposable measuring cups, or if you've got these lying around and your wife won't notice they're missing, use some household measuring spoons. The first step is to put on protective gloves. The second step for me anyway is to put on glasses, otherwise I can't see what I'm doing. Then take part A, the bigger can. You see here what a wide spout it's got. This makes it really easy to get in there and mix thoroughly. You then put the quantity required using a measuring cup or a syringe, doesn't matter, into there. That will be plenty for what we have to do. Put the tap back on part A and put aside. Now we take part B, the hardener. Pull off this cap, undo the red. There is another internal seal in there. Pull that off. And then you pour into your mixing cup. You've got 3 parts in there, so I want 1 part of the hardener. That's that. Put that back on, push it down, and you can replace part A on top of that and put it back into store. This now needs a very good stir. With such a small quantity as this, I would just use a stick of wood and spend a couple of minutes mixing thoroughly. However, if you have a slightly bigger quantity, you might want to get some of these disposable paddles. They fit into an electric drill. And you can see just how effective they would be for larger quantities. We now come to the application. The key thing to remember is that a little of this goes a long, long way. The method I use is to take a plastic scraper, pour a little bit of the mix onto the piece, set that aside, and then gradually spread it over. Take your time, try and get an even coat right up to the edges as you can. And now just keep on moving it around Again, I stress just how far a few drops go. Far better to add a little bit more than it is to try and take a little bit off. And of course you continue that until your whole piece is completed. I've now waited a couple of minutes for the oil to penetrate, and then I just take a clean rag and just go over it, wiping off any excess that there might be. In my experience, the more you do this, the less excess you get, which is so much better. We now come to the third optional step, which is to apply a buffer. I think this brings out a slightly higher sheen, but as I say, it's entirely optional for you. Now just very gently go over the surface. This is in fact an old car buffer. The supposition I have is this just helps to activate the wax element of the hard wax oil. As I say, just bringing out that slightly higher sheen. Now you can just continue doing this until you feel happy you've got the level of sheen that you require. There we have it. Now in fact that piece is now sufficiently dry that if I wanted to, I could easily move it off of my workbench. It frees up my workbench to get on with something else, but equally importantly, it's dry enough so that any dust in the air doesn't fall down and spoil my finish. And then after 5 days, the piece will be fully cured. Just to wrap up the finishing of this piece of European walnut, it's probably interesting to see just the difference between the top half, which has had the Natura finish on it, and the bottom half, which is still the natural walnut. I really like the way that the Natura makes the walnut grain pop. Many people, when they're using light timbers such as oak, sycamore, maples, that type of product, want to retain as much of the light colour as possible. Natura have got 2 options available for this. Today I'm just going to use a product they call Natural White. I've mixed it in exactly the same way as normal. I'm going to drip some of that onto there and just show you the effect that you get with that. Incidentally, if you're wondering about leaving half the piece unfinished, it's not a problem. It's exactly the same as if you wanted to repair a piece. You just come back, you apply hard wax oil to the pieces that are missing or need a repair, and it blends itself in seamlessly. It's one of the beauties of hard wax oil. I should also mention that you must of course do the reverse of any piece to get the essential balance. Otherwise you do face the risk of the piece of timber over time cupping a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to wipe that over after a couple of minutes, and finally, once again, just give it a light buffer. There we are. Now what I've done here is, as I say, is I've applied Natural White. What I've got here is a piece also of oak where I previously applied some Natura Clear. That will just give you an idea of the differences you can get. Which one you prefer, entirely up to you. But here we have Natura Clear, and here we have Natura Natural White. To help you, I've just got a couple of comparisons which you might find interesting. You originally saw me complete this part of the European walnut with Natura Clear. What I've done earlier is to finish, again, European walnut, but this time I've used Natura Walnut Stain. In response to customer requests, Natura have added a slight reddish tint to their walnut range. So you've got clear, and here you've got walnut. You can decide which you prefer, and in fact there is nothing to stop you at all mixing the tints so you get slightly less red or slightly more red. That's entirely up to you. They're all interchangeable. The last tint I'd like to show you today is this set of table legs that I've made out of European oak, and I've deliberately left a portion there yet to be stained. This has been finished in Natura charcoal. Now, it's not a pre-colour, it's not a stain, it's a tint that goes on, and I particularly like the way it still allows the beauty of the oak grain to show through, whilst obviously giving it a charcoal effect. I really hope this video helps you get the very best out of Natura Onecoat. I've truly found it to be my go-to for every internal application. I should say that it's completely VOC free, and you genuinely only need to apply one coat. It cures, as you see, very quickly, which brings the benefits of freeing up my workspace and stopping dust ruining the finish. As a cost per square yard or square metre, it's incredibly good value because a little drop goes a long way. Features like the tough cans, which help prevent denting, the slow skinning formula of the oil, really help to ensure that every single drop that you buy, you can get out of the can and you can use. If you do have any questions, you can email us on info@naturaonecoat.com. Thank you very much for your time.